logged in on mine too, so I could like make sure everything's good. It's live.
It's live?
Hi.
I think it's live. It only shows one viewer. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to try this link just to make sure.
Yeah, do you have it handy? That's what I was looking for.
I'm going to chat it to you really fast.
There we are.
And it still only says one viewer. Okay. And if we're not, we'll find out.
I think it's just so
Hi, everyone. That was very awkward. I'm Paul. This is Stacy.
Hi.
We work here in San Francisco headquarters, and we wanted to spend some time this morning kind of giving you guys, new drivers, a quick overview of how Lyft works, and then hopefully answer some of your questions. We have a Q&A app that we've loaded up that we can hopefully utilize today, and we'll go from there. If you do have any questions along the way, just post them in the Q&A. You'll have to possibly load it up in a browser, but that should hopefully work. So without further ado, I'm going to try and attempt to share my screen. Uh-oh. There we go. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and let Stacy walk through these slides. We should take probably about 15 minutes on these, maybe a little bit longer. But then once we're done with these slides, we'll jump right into question and answers. And I believe you can ask questions and get them answered live with us today. And we want to get as many of those answered today as possible. So hopefully we'll be able to spend the whole hour and get a lot of those questions answered. So I'm going to pass it over to Stacy, who's your community manager in the New Driver Lounge.
All right. Hey, guys. So a lot of this is going to be stuff that's already been told to you by your mentors, but we're just going to kind of go over things to get you refreshed and fill in any gaps that you might have, and then you can ask us questions at the end. So we're going to kind of go over a little bit of culture and community stuff, day in the life of a Lyft driver, and some pro tips. Starting with, what is Lyft? Well, Lyft is your friend with a car. We're generally cheaper than a cab, and we're a lot more fun. And we're very focused around community. We like to delight people with service and have that really like your friend with a car mentality, make people feel comfortable when they're in your ride. We encourage passengers to sit up front with you, but they don't have to. So if you've got a passenger that maybe wants to sit in the back, you can say, hey, you're welcome to jump in front if you want to, but if they're not interested and they want to sit in the back, that's totally fine too. We encourage you to play good music, to let your passengers DJ. In your welcome kits, you receive an auxiliary cord, so they do have the option of plugging in their phone if they have some music of their own that they want to play. We used to offer charging cables in the welcome kit, but they don't come anymore, but a lot of drivers can pick up those really affordably, and if you do have extra charging cables, it's a good idea to offer your passengers a charge on their phone if they need one. And of course the obvious one, smile and drive safely. So the next slide is we rock the mustache. So you guys are all going to get that beautiful pink shiny mustache in your welcome kit as soon as you complete 30 rides. We get it shipped out to you. It can take 2 to 3 weeks or so. Make sure to strap that bad boy on the front of your car. If you have any issues with it, any workarounds, post in the lounge. Your fellow drivers will be super helpful. Let us know what kind of car you have. We'll figure out a way to make sure we get that on there secure. We got a little picture here of someone taking a photo, so be prepared because you will get lots of people staring and smiling and taking photos and laughing. Especially kids and dogs seem to be attracted to the car stash. Fist bumps for life. So we encourage you to fist bump your passengers upon entering and exiting the car. It's a really good icebreaker, really good way to just get the ride going on a good start. Might feel a little awkward at first if it's not something you're used to, but I highly encourage doing it. And it's also good to fist bump everyone in your car. So if you've got a full house, you've got passengers in the back, spread the love to the backseat passengers as well. Community slide. So make sure you pick up the passenger at their exact location. Don't squeeze in extra people. That's a big one that you'll see a lot, especially on the weekends, picking up people from bars, things like that. The big groups, they want to stay together, and they try to encourage you to squeeze in a fifth person when your car might not accommodate. Make sure you only take as many people as you have seatbelts in your car. Just explain to them, you know, it's for safety, it's for the law. And if you have someone in the group that maybe doesn't have the Lyft app yet, you can have them download it, provide them with your referral code, and tell them to request another Lyft, and they'll get that one free. Leave your kids and bring in your buddies along too. Make sure that you've got all your seats available for your passengers. Make sure that everyone has their seatbelts on. If you're in any kind of fender bender, call our critical support line, which you can find on our help center. Make sure to keep it positive when you're in your Lyft. Just, you know, be happy and share the love with your passengers, and be perceptive, because some passengers are going to want a quiet ride. So just kind of get a feel for what your passengers' needs might be. It's good to be friendly and start a conversation, but sometimes people just want to check their emails on their phone or kind of zone out, and so it's good to be perceptive if that's what someone's going to want. Next, express yourself. So at Lyft, we really encourage creativity, and we really encourage you guys to be yourselves and be who you are, and just like really express your creativity within your lifts. This is a picture of Cindy. She is a longtime Lyft driver, one of the very first, and she uses pink Post-it notes with positive motivational quotes and affirmations in her car to just better people's days. She offers organic sugar-free gum and lavender mist for stressful days. She's also a yoga instructor outside of Lyft, so you can see how her personality is reflected within her car with her passengers, and it really makes for a great 5-star service. So we have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to drugs and alcohol. Make sure if you have any issues with that to contact our support team. All rides are prearranged and non-commercial, so make sure you are only accepting rides that are requested within the app. Sometimes people, you know, they hear about Lyft, hear that it's some sort of taxi service, and they think that they can flag you down. Make sure you're only accepting rides that come in through your app. It's your personal platform. We have a $1 million liability insurance. We've also come really far in all of our insurance coverage, so make sure to check out our insurance page on the Help Center. It's super detailed, tells you when you're covered, how you're covered, and will answer any questions you might have about insurance. And we've also got some info on taxes. You'll fill out a 1099-K, and you'll have, once you complete the year, a history section in the driver portal that'll show your mileage and how much you made and all that good stuff. So we do have a live support phone number, but it's only for emergencies, so use it for any kind of accidents or regulatory issues or maybe safety concerns. Otherwise, go to our help center, which can be found at lyft.com/drive/help. You can link to it easily in your driver portal when you log in as well. There's a contact us button on there. If you can't find what you're looking for in the help center, just click that contact us button, and that'll shoot off an email to support based on what kind of question you've got, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If it's something that's going on with the app, just make sure to take screenshots whenever possible. Just a couple top issues that we receive in support. If you're having problems with the app freezing, try force quitting the app. Also try force quitting any other applications you might have running in the background. A lot of times something as simple as that can help. Lost and found. It's definitely a big thing, but we've made some awesome improvements to this. If a passenger leaves something in your car, we now have a link on the ride receipt that the passenger will receive where they can contact you if they've left something behind. If you notice something that a passenger has left behind and perhaps they haven't reached out to you, you can again use that contact us button on the help center and let our support team know, and we'll make sure to get you guys connected so you can return the lost item. Connectivity issues are a big one. Don't stress out if you're dealing with this. Sometimes you might, see a Lyft request come through, but maybe you can't accept it, and then it says you missed the request, or maybe you can't end a Lyft because it's saying you have poor connectivity. Try to just relocate. A lot of times that can help. Another good thing is to toggle airplane mode. This will refresh your connection and hopefully get things going there. Cancellations are another one. It's definitely a big part of lifting. You'll get passengers that cancel. You'll also get passengers that no-show. Especially in newer markets, we have passengers playing with the app, trying to figure out what it's all about, and they hit that big request Lyft button, and they don't realize that that's actually going to request them a Lyft, and then they panic and cancel it. So it can definitely happen. Try not to get frustrated. We do have a cancellation policy in which, under certain circumstances, the passenger will be charged $5, and all of that goes to the driver. Check out the FAQ on the Help Center about cancellations to see the details on when that applies. Another thing is just forgetting to start your Lyft or starting it too soon. Make sure that you're not starting the Lyft until the passenger is actually getting into the car. I think a good thing to go by would be when your passenger is opening the passenger door. That would be a great time, like right as they're getting in, because then you get it out of the way, you're ready to fist bump, all of that. So ratings matter a lot. We expect the community to self-regulate with ratings. Most people do rate 5 stars. But you're gonna get some lower ratings here and there. Try not to stress out about it. We do give passengers the option, if they rate a driver 4 stars or fewer, that they can choose from a set of 4 flags, which are navigation, safety, friendliness, and cleanliness. So those are definitely the top 4 most important things that you want to keep an eye on while lifting. So above a 4.8 or higher is pretty good, all-star status. At 4.6 or lower, you are at risk for deactivation, so make sure to keep your ratings high. If 3 stars or lower are ever given in a Lyft, whether or not it's the passenger giving you 3 stars or lower, or vice versa, you rating your passenger that way, you won't be matched with that passenger ever again. So if you are ever in a situation where you have a passenger and you would prefer to not ride with them again for whatever reason, 3 stars is going to make sure that you guys won't be paired up again. Maximizing your Lyft loot. So some key tricks to make the most earnings. Drive during peak hours. So this might vary a little bit depending on which city you're driving in, but the one thing that's true across all markets is that nights and weekends are definitely going to be busiest, especially weekend nights, late night when people are going out. Also morning and evening commute times during the week are busy, and you guys will know in your cities where the best areas are for those. Accept every request you receive, so you do have an acceptance rating, so make sure that you are only in driver mode when you are ready to accept requests. If you miss a request here and there, don't sweat it. We only look at your lifetime average with this. Your acceptance rating might go down for that day, but we only look at your average overall. Start the Lyft as soon as the passenger gets in. We went over that one. Go above and beyond for your passengers. Just kind of goes back to expressing yourself. Just really making your Lyft special and unique is going to really help maximize your loot. Use navigation. That's definitely one of those flags we talked about with ratings. Using navigation is key to make sure that passengers get to their destination efficiently and safely, and it's just going to make them happy knowing that you went the most efficient route. And waiting at optimal locations. On the city-specific pages on the Help Center, you will see heat hotspots on your coverage area maps. That'll help give you an idea of the best places to hang out. It's also good to just chat with your fellow drivers, see what works best for everyone. You guys are the local experts in your cities. You'll know when, where it's going to be busy on the weekends, where it's going to be busy during commute times. So definitely hang out in those optimal locations where you're going to get the most requests. So next slide is just a few things to avoid. Never accept cash. It's against our terms of service. So sometimes a passenger might want to give you a tip. If they do try to give you a cash tip, just explain to them how they can tip in the app. There's a button that says tip. They just hit that, and then they hit the little plus button to increase the amount, and then they hit save, and they're good to go on that. Don't request tips. we've definitely designed the app to make tipping not feel required to passengers, so we don't want anyone to feel like it is a requirement. It will come as long as you're giving awesome service. People will tip. Do not accept personal calls during rides. And as we mentioned earlier, only accept rides that come through within the app. Don't pick up anyone that's trying to flag you on the street. So driver mode, top right corner, you've got the steering wheel. You can also go to the little menu and toggle driver mode on and off. Again, just only be in driver mode when you're in your car, mustache is on the grill, you're ready to accept requests. Be sure to turn it off if you've got to take a bathroom break, got to fill up gas tank, any of that, be sure to turn off driver mode because you don't want to miss a request. Inside of your car, make sure you have your phone mounted and charging. We do provide a phone mount in your welcome kit. I highly recommend while you're waiting to get your welcome kit to pick up a phone mount on your own. It's really important that you are hands-free while you're driving for safety reasons. It's also good because it's going to make your passenger feel safe, which is very important. You don't want to be looking down at your phone, having your phone in your hand while you're trying to navigate, anything like that. Make sure your car is clean on the outside and on the inside. Make sure the seats are clear and that your trunk is clear as well. So you don't want anything, any items on the floor, on the seats. You don't want your trunk full of stuff. You might get a passenger that needs a ride to the airport and has a suitcase, just might have a lot of extra baggage. So you want to make sure that you have room for that, especially if you get a car full of passengers. Oops. So next one is navigation. We kind of touched on this briefly, but make sure to, this is about getting to your passenger. So there's a button in the app. You guys have probably all given rides already. You probably know when you get that request and you accept it, hit the navigate to get to your passenger. Switch back to the Lyft app upon arrival. You can use your external navigation app, whatever you use, to get to the passenger's destination. We also have the passenger destination feature in the app, so the passenger might enter their destination before you pick them up, which is really awesome because then you can just hit that navigate button again and it'll pull it up for you. And when you drop off your passenger, just make sure to arrive safely in the Lyft as they exit the car, and you're good to go there. After a ride, you're going to be able to rate your passenger just as they would be able to rate to you. These are kind of old screenshots, so if it looks a little different, that's why. The passenger will be able to submit the payment, and you can rate them as well. I don't know what the next slide is. We're on screen share, so they're not going to be able to see it anymore.
We weren't.
Oh, we weren't? Oh, you guys aren't seeing my slides.
Oops.
That's okay. You're getting the gist of what I'm saying either way. Are they seeing it now, or do we not know?
They are.
Okay. Yep. Sorry you guys haven't been seeing the slides. So next is just referral bonuses. Many cities we offer a referral bonus for new drivers, so make sure to tell your friends. You get a personal referral link in your driver summaries. It's the same code that you actually use to refer passengers. So it'll arrive in an email during your first week of driving, but it's also on your driver summary. It's also in the app. If you go to the Invite Your Friends section and go to the Invited tab, you'll see your code there. So make sure to just share that far and wide. Passenger-wise, it gives a passenger their first ride free up to $25, and you get a $10 bonus. And then on the driver side, if a driver applies using your referral link, depending on which city you're driving in, you may receive a bonus, and the new driver, your friend that applied, would get one as well. So now that you missed all of those lovely slides, but you heard everything I said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And this would be the time that you guys can ask questions.
All right. So I'm coming back. I've been in here the whole time, you guys, trying to just monitor questions that have come up. And we've got a lot of questions that are coming in, so we'll try to get to as many of these as we possibly can. I want to apologize first about some of the technical difficulties. We also realize the sound isn't fantastic. We are working on that. This is the second time we've done this live, and we're going to try and do these weekly for new drivers, so if we have some in the future, you can certainly join again. We may end up covering a lot of the same things, but we can also answer different questions. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the question and answer side here. So let's start with, well, there's one that says, I don't see the slides. So just to address that, we thought we were sharing our screen and we weren't, and we didn't realize it until about halfway through. But we will try to share these slides with you some other way if possible. They're very visual, but what Stacey was saying was really the bulk of what you needed to know. Okay, so the next question, let's go to Roberta. Roberta says, how do I get cool Lyft t-shirts and referral cards? Well, I have a really cool Lyft t-shirt, but this one's old. We don't have any of these left. But so to get referral cards, there's several ways. Right now, the best way to do it is to log into the driver portal at lyft.com/drive and navigate on the left-hand side to the referral section. And right there, you'll get a lot of information. You'll get your code. There will be a link to where you can order referral cards. So that's pretty simple. Just go to lyft.com/drive and just click on the referral section on the left-hand menu. Now, from a t-shirt perspective, those are hard to come by. We definitely have t-shirts here and there, but they run out very quickly. But I would, maybe shoot an email to support, and they might be able to hook you up with a t-shirt some way or another. But keep a lookout. We'll have some t-shirts available here and there.
Yeah, one of the best ways to get any kind of like cool Lyft stuff is going to driver hangouts. We're working on getting social chairs established in each city, and these are going to be drivers who help organize the hangouts. And in those instances, we'll be sending some fun stuff to the social chairs to bring to the hangouts. So often you can get cool stuff like that when you go to driver hangouts.
All right. The next question from Michael Harlan. Or Heerlin, is what are the tax benefits for driving as far as IRS rules are considered? Well, let me start with a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a tax expert, neither is Stacey, and so we can't legally give you advice on your taxes. What I can tell you is it can be complicated. When in doubt, I would absolutely talk to a tax professional who is in good standing with the IRS. They are going to know a lot more about this than we necessarily will. But what I can tell you is at the end of the year, we do compile all of your rides into a report for the previous year, all your mileage when you were in driver mode, all your earnings, was 1099 or 1099K earnings. And what that difference is ultimately if you earn money from referrals or from whether you're referring passengers or drivers, or if you earn money in other ways like cancellation fees, those actually are 1099 miscellaneous. Whereas if you collect donations or earnings in another market, those actually qualify as 1099K, so you end up getting essentially two forms if you qualify. So long story short, I would definitely talk to a professional. But as far as the benefits go, the best place to actually ask is in the lounge. If you go into the driver lounge and ask, there's a lot of tax professionals that actually drive for Lyft, various CPAs and people who have friends or husband or wife that are a CPA, so they can sometimes answer some questions for you without having to charge you. Good question. Why doesn't the driver app show fare at the end of the ride? From Anthony Wen. So this is actually a really good question. It comes up very often, and this is deliberate. We don't want this to sound like we don't want you to know. But at the end of the day, what we actually want is for you to be focused on giving someone a great service, and for the passenger to be focused on sort of socializing and interacting with the driver and getting from point A to point B. So we've deliberately decided not to show you the price of the ride because we will just send it to you in the daily report at the end of the day. We also would want to avoid any awkward moments where a passenger, for instance, may reduce the donation, and that could cause maybe an altercation or a confrontation that we don't ultimately want. It gives peace of mind to the passenger that the driver's not going to know until after they leave the vehicle. That might seem like we're favoring the passenger, but it's really not true. At the end of the day, we want money to be a non-issue, and so we're constantly working toward our goal of reaching that, where drivers are fairly compensated and passengers are paying a fair amount. And I think we're getting closer and closer every day to getting there. But the donation percentage, that threshold you set inside the driver portal, for those of you that are in donation markets, that's your real protection from passengers that may abuse that. Whereas in people in other cities like San Francisco, LA, any California city that's not on donations, it ultimately doesn't matter because the price that you're going to get is going to be approximately the same for each of the time and distance that you do, and you'll get that in your daily report the next day. But it's a great question. Thanks, Anthony. Can everyone hear us?
That was me.
And I think so. Matthew says, "Hey there, guys." Hi, Matthew.
Hey.
How you doing? When you see a lot of car icons in your map, are they available or are they busy? Great question. Ram, those are cars that are available currently. and they come and go instantaneously. So you won't see cars that are actually picking up or actually have a passenger in the vehicle. So those different states are not shown in the app. What you see instead is all the available vehicles that are on the road at that given time. But keep in mind, when we announced heat maps for Android recently, we've been testing that. It is something we're working on, and we'll actually eventually replace the cars on the map. With heat maps, it's a lot more clear to drivers where they should be, where the demand is coming from. It's going to be a lot more intuitive for you. So those are coming. Hopefully by the end of the summer. It's a very complicated development project, but we did roll it out for Android, and we're working on it for iOS as well. I don't know if it's rolled out nationwide to Android yet, but it will be soon. So good question. And I forgot to click it, but that was the question. All right. Michael Herlin has another question. He asks, do we get money for people canceling? So as of right now, in some cases, it's actually really complicated. But the good news is we are working on a new policy for this that will make it much more intuitive both for drivers and passengers, and will be a big win for you. Expect that in the next few weeks. But what we're ultimately doing now is if you pick up a passenger and they cancel once you've arrived, they'll be charged $5. If you pick up a passenger, if you arrive at a passenger's destination and you wait for 5 minutes and they don't arrive and then you cancel as a no-show, that actually does not charge the passenger. Currently, but we are working on a fix for that to come up with a fair solution that will be fair for both drivers and passengers. So it's a great question. The answer is it's complicated. There are sometimes when you are charged the $5 as a passenger. There are sometimes when you aren't. But in general, the passenger typically has to cancel in order for them to get charged. Thanks for the question. The next one here: if a person sees my car with a pink mustache and tries to flag me down, how do I start a Lyft with them? This is a really, really good question, and this is why you want referral cards. Let me explain. So it is actually illegal for any Lyft driver in every city and state to pick up a passenger who's hailed you on the street. Everything must be prearranged through the app. So there's a great way around this, is if you get a passenger who flags you down and says, I want to ride home, you can hand them a referral card, tell them to download the app, and the ride will be free. So it's a pretty great opportunity for them to use the service, try it out for the first time, and you'll get your $10 plus the ride money. So you'll get the referral bonus plus the amount you would get for the ride. All of that is on us. So that's part of our initiative to get as many passengers to try Lyft for the first time. Generally speaking, passengers who try it love it because you guys are great and you give great rides and give great experiences. And so we want as many people to try as possible. So absolutely download as many referral cards, or excuse me, get as many referral cards as you can, and then if that does happen to you, say on a street corner at Saturday night on the way home from the bars, people may try to flag you down, and obviously you want to be compensated for it, so that's the best way to do it. Okay. Carrie Stewart writes, why is my rating still pending? Will I get to see all comments associated with the rating once they are available? That is correct. Your assumption here is correct that comments will start showing up as soon as passengers actually leave a comment, and they show up in your weekly report, not your daily report. So they're completely anonymized, so that if you do get feedback that's either helpful or encouraging, that it's hard for you to attribute it to the actual passenger. That's just to protect the passenger's privacy. So those will show up in your weekly reports, which come on Tuesday mornings, typically. The first question is, why is your rating still pending? It's actually incredibly complicated, but this is common for new drivers. Not all passengers leave a rating. Sometimes they just get out of the vehicle and forget about it, and then the next day the rating, the ride is automatically charged to their credit card, but they never had a chance to rate. So the reason for that is that we don't want to wait longer than 24 hours, but unfortunately what we lose in that process is the potential for them to rate you. So in general, you may not, it depends on the driver, but you may have a few of those people who didn't rate on time and they never actually left a rating for you. You have to have a certain number of ratings and a certain number of frequency of rides in order for your rating to start showing up. And again, that's to protect the passenger's privacy. So if you only gave 1 or 2 rides for 2 weeks, it'll be pretty easy to identify who left you those ratings. So we have a little bit of a buffer period. But typically within 30 days, if you're doing pretty regular lifting part-time, you'll start to see it after about 2 to 3 weeks. Good question. Stacey, you want to take this one?
Sure.
All right.
All right, let's see. How are you going to make sure that people that rate a 4 out of 5 not affect our approval rating? People think sometimes that 4 is awesome, even if we go beyond our duties. 5 is never. They will rate people. Okay, so I get what you're saying. I've definitely heard this concern from drivers before that there are people out there that might think that 4 is an awesome rating when really it can affect you negatively. I would say don't waste too much time sweating it. I think that most passengers are going to rate you a 5. I think that you're going to get the occasional passenger that might rate you a 4 but still have thought you were awesome. And keep in mind that you're only compared to the drivers within your market, and everybody else is kind of on the same playing field as you. So those things that will happen to you with your rating will also happen to your fellow drivers. And you're only compared to them as far as your ratings go. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to add to that. I think that there's a lot of like concern around ratings, but I think that it's ultimately going to be okay. And also, if there's ever like a situation where where a passenger may have rated you low for something that was out of your control, like maybe they gave you a 4-star and wrote the ride was too expensive. They didn't think that the price was fair. We'll make sure that that rating doesn't count against your average. You can always email performance@lyft.com and we'll make sure to take that one off for you.
Yeah. So and just to piggyback on that, it looks like Sheila, your question is common. It comes up a lot, and I think it is hard as a new driver to really trust the system before you've really gotten in there. And it is actually very common for new drivers to start a little lower than average on rating. And slowly, gradually work their way back up as they get more used to it. A lot of times you'll have like, navigation is the most common issue, but maybe there's little things, little tricks and tricks of the trade that you haven't learned yet on the road. And you might end up giving a passenger who's a regular Lyft passenger who is used to a more experienced driver. They get someone who's relatively new, and maybe they give them a 4. The whole purpose of the rating system is not to scare you. It's actually to encourage you and give honest and transparent feedback. And so our hope is that if they leave a 4, they do actually comment, and then you can kind of learn from it. But in general, the rating system is a pretty smart system, and a 4 is not going to hurt you terribly badly. If you get a 4, if your rating drops down to a 4.6, that's really low, and that's low like in terms of the percentages. That's probably the lower 2 or 3% of all drivers across all markets. However, if you're a new driver, don't worry about it. Keep driving, because eventually it'll work its way back up. If you continue to do the right things, offer great service, use navigation, keep your car clean, and really focus on getting them from point A to point B safely, you're going to be fine. The number of drivers that we've actually offboarded, people ask this question all the time, how many people have actually been offboarded? It's a very, very small number. It is not common. So I wouldn't fret too much. But it's a great question, and hopefully that helps answer it a little bit. All right, PUC questions. These are good. So we got a California-specific question, but it does apply to actually all regions. What is the status of airport pickups and drop-offs in California? And has this been resolved with the PUC? The short answer is no, but we're working very hard on this. I actually had my Lyft driver who dropped me off at work this morning ask me this very same question about SFO here in San Francisco. And the truth is we're working very hard on it, but you still can pick up and drop off at airports. The only airport that's really been the biggest issue in California is actually LAX. And then we ask, in the case of LAX, that you actually pick up and drop off on the upper level, on the arrival level, on the departure level. That's been a much better place to do it. So if you're an LA driver, absolutely encourage you to do an upper level drop-offs at LAX. Every other airport in the country is relatively safe. And just remember one thing. If I could tell you one thing, one takeaway to this question, if you have any problems at an airport, please let us know. We back you 100%. If you're for some reason given a fine or a warning, we'll take care of it. We will fight on your behalf. That's what we're here for. Okay, next question. Colorado, want to go?
One thing I've noticed in Colorado Springs, it seems there are a ton of drivers right now and just not enough clients. Is there a way to put a cap on how many drivers are running during any time of day? Cool. Matthew, So right now we have kind of turned the focus from supply to demand. So we have ramped up our driver quantity, but the next thing we're working on is ramping up our demand. So, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for us to do a lot of work on the demand side, getting you guys a ton of passengers if we don't have a ton of drivers there to accept the rides. So we are shifting focus, and we hope that we have intentions of getting things busier for you guys. So, no, we won't be putting a cap on how many drivers are on the road, but we are doing a lot of work on the demand side to get you guys busier.
Awesome. Let's see, a few more here. Let's go with, does a donation city change to a fare city, and what are the rules? It's an absolutely fantastic question. It comes up often. Our goal as a company is to not focus on donations long term. The beauty of donations is that it's very inviting for passengers. It's very inviting for regulators. There's a lot of reasons we did donations to start, but we are moving to fares as quickly as possible in every region. It just makes more sense. It puts you guys on better solid ground, but it's not as easy as it sounds. So we are working very hard. We try to do as many cities as we possibly can. Every month we look at the list and we try to roll a few more into fares. But the way that works is really it comes from our government relations team. Those are the people with boots on the ground who are meeting with regulators, meeting with local groups, and trying to get Lyft on solid standing ground in every city. And in general, we are. But donations is sort of a negotiation tactic in some ways, and in some cases. And then in other cases, it's a new city. We always launch with donations. That's the goal. It's a very inviting feature for passengers, and we want passengers to feel like they can try the service. And then once they've tried it and gotten used to it, then we can eventually move to charges, to prices. So the rules around that is basically that there is a donation generally in every city that we launch in, and then eventually move them to solid prices. Good question. Another one from Michael. Michael's got some great questions here, so I'm just going to go right through them. Do we fill out schedule or not? So the answer is you can if you want. The benefits of filling out a schedule is that you get reminders, and you can see earnings potential. So if you go into lyft.com/drive, lyft.com/hours, or the drive portal, and just click on the hours tab. Once you're in there, what you'll see is estimated earnings, and that's based on the history of all rides in that market. So we look at this data very closely, and we determine what we expect every driver to make during any given hour. And it will change dynamically as more drivers reserve that hour or go into driver mode over time during certain hours. So it is very dynamic. But the beauty of the hours portal is ultimately to estimate your earnings. There's like a little calculator on the page. And then in addition to that, to get a reminder that'll remind you that this is the hour you picked, and the reason you picked it was to make as much money as possible. We used to have a requirement that if you reserved an hour that you had to drive or it would hurt your reliability rating. We actually got rid of that a few months ago. So that's the reason we still have this hours portal. Some of our communications still really encourages signing up for hours, but we just haven't got around to changing that stuff. But in general, it's not a bad idea to reserve hours if you're someone who really likes to have a plan. But to reiterate, you don't have to. You certainly can just go into driver mode and flip on the switch whenever you want. Good question. Okay, let's take Debbie's. You want to take this one?
Sure. When we have a referral that we know has started driving, why can't we see that person in our back office and their progress since they only have 30 days?
I'm not even sure. I think I understand that question.
Okay.
So Debbie, what you're ultimately saying is when you refer another driver and they start driving, you don't have much insight into when you're going to get paid out for that referral. That's something we're working very hard on. In fact, the lyft.com/drive, if you go to the referrals section, there's going to be more information there in the future where you can actually share your code directly with drivers from that page. And then the drivers that use it there, eventually you'll be able to track their progress in that page. But right now we don't have that ability. So just hang in there. I know it's super frustrating, but you can always email support and just see if they can answer your question and check in on it. We'll always make sure we get it right. But I apologize in advance that it's not super transparent. But we do have a history of paying drivers out on time and for every referral. So we have a very good track record. I understand the need to want to know what's going on. So we apologize for that. But good question. This one.
there a regular schedule for auto deposits, or is it just as they are earned? So your earnings will come in. We regularly deposit them on Tuesdays. It can arrive in your bank account anytime between then and Friday. It just depends on your bank. So yes, it's regular, and it's regular on our end. It might be a little bit different on your end, but you'll probably see it consistently on the same day.
Awesome. Michael has another good question. I would assume it's okay to cancel someone who requests a pickup on the expressway. Doesn't seem too safe for either party. This is actually a more broad question about cancellations. As a driver, you have every right to cancel any ride if you feel unsafe. So it's important to reiterate this, that if you ever feel unsafe picking up a passenger for any reason, whether it's your personal safety, their safety, whatever it is, you absolutely have every right to cancel, and just know that that we back you 100% on that. Obviously, you don't want to make a habit of canceling every ride because you're just leaving money on the table, essentially. But if you do have a situation like that where you feel unsafe, or they may be unsafe, definitely probably best to do that. One thing I will point out is that if you get a pickup on an expressway that's a raised freeway, we've had this issue before where the passenger is actually under the freeway on a street corner. So just call them if it looks funny on your phone. Just give them a quick call and double check that they are at the location that they say they are. And if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm under the freeway," then you'll know to find that different route. All right.
This Saturday night, I got a lot of server errors. What was happening? Is it possible to lose the credit for the ride if the server is having technical issues? So we did have a server issue this weekend. We got it fixed quickly. Our engineers were super on top of it. Any driver that had an issue starting or ending a Lyft was compensated for that, so we did take care of that.
We had our first outage in probably a year.
Yeah.
On Friday, and it probably carried into Saturday a little bit with some server errors. So apologize for that. It's technology. It never works as well as we hope. But but in terms of losing credit for a ride, it's not likely. There are occasions where it could be slightly less or slightly more that the passenger is charged, that the driver that the ride ends up being, and that's due to our estimation. So it could be off by $1 or $2 because of the time and the distance that we're not calculating anymore when the server goes down. But it's really honestly not going to be much of a big deal. It all evens out in the end. Our technology is pretty good. We have a lot of backup systems that calculate things, that sort of double check our math. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you do see something on your report that seems really wrong, just email pay@lyft.com. The pay team can cover all that stuff with you. They're really good and can sort it out for you. All right, we got another local specific question. I like these. Marcy asked, riders keep asking me if Lyft is legal in Kansas City. And when I check, there appears to be an ordinance about accepting donations. What is Lyft's policy on the legal issues in Kansas City? Let me start by saying that Kansas City, not only Kansas City, but the whole state of Missouri is a very interesting state in terms of the legal ramifications. That said, we are working directly with both Kansas City and St. Louis on getting Lyft on the ground in good standing as soon as possible. Kansas City's made much more progress than St. Louis has. But I want to say this to all drivers in all markets, that Lyft is a very innovative new concept, and we tend to find that regulators all over the country, it takes a little bit of time for them to get used to the idea, and sometimes even though we are on legal ground and good legal standing, they still don't totally understand it. And so part of our job as a company and part of our team's job on the government relations team is actually to educate regulators. So in those cases, as much as we're educating you as well, we need to also educate the regulators who are overseeing this. And so we've had a lot of success. Kansas City is definitely definitely on good legal standing. You can absolutely drive there. Just be aware of these issues so that if anything does come up, you know how to talk about them. But to answer that rider's question, like, we're continuing to work to really solidify this in Kansas City, but we're fine to operate while we work on that, if that makes sense. And I will also say that government relations issues are very complex, and neither Stacy nor I, just like taxes, we aren't experts. But we are in the loop on all these cities, and in general, we're fine. All right, I have yet to get my welcome kit. How long does it take to get? Great question. Your welcome kit, which includes your beautiful pink fuzzy mustache, it looks kind of like my beard, but it's pink. It comes in the mail after you complete 30 rides. So as a new driver, 30 rides is about a weekend or a half a week, depending on how often you drive. If you drive Friday and Saturday nights, you'll probably get 30 rides in your first weekend. If you drive Monday through Friday commute hours, you might get it in a week. But in general, once you hit the 30 ride mark, we'll automatically ship you your welcome kit. It includes a phone mount. It includes a mustache and some other goodies. So just be aware of that. Harry writes, how do I change my phone number? It's actually really easy. We can do it for you right here, but we won't waste everybody's time, and I actually don't know how to get your phone number from you. Yeah, it's super simple, Harry. You can actually do it in the app. So if you're on Android or iPhone, go open up the Lyft app, click over to the profile, and in the profile just hit the edit button, and you can now edit your phone number there. So that will update it in our system as well. Next one, we don't see the slides. Also, how long before I get a welcome kit? Okay, we just answered the welcome kit questions after you complete 30 rides. And the slides, we ran into some issues. That was my fault. But next time we'll know for future reference. Thank you for your patience today. And here we have one from September Ga. September says, is it possible for tech support to notify drivers where there's a server issue? This last weekend was my first, and it was challenging managing rider expectations, answering their questions. First of all, wow, great work for that being your first weekend. I can't imagine what that was like, and you know, good for you for being able to mitigate that. And yes, this is actually the biggest takeaway. We're actually working on something so that when the server is down, we have a way to notify drivers. We don't currently, which has also been a big challenge for us. So yeah, I definitely. Definitely working on it, and appreciate you kind of getting through this weekend. I know that was probably tough, but yeah, we're working on something to notify drivers and passengers of server issues and be a little bit more clear. You want to take this LA one?
Sure.
All right.
Should you keep your mustache on your grill for rides on the freeway or to LAX? Yes, you should keep your mustache on anytime you are driving for Lyft. I know it comes with a little disclaimer that you shouldn't have it on if you're going to be driving over 40 miles per hour, but I've had it on my grill for hours on the freeway and never had an issue. As long as you've got it securely fastened through all 3 of those loops, you should be good to go.
Awesome. Michael again asks, is there a comparison chart between Lyft and Uber to encourage riders to go with Lyft? It's a good question. We have comparison charts in terms of like the benefits of both, and including taxis in that. In general, I think there's benefits to all of these platforms. It's sometimes personal preference. It's sometimes what the passenger wants. For instance, Uber is more of a backseat taxi style experience, and some passengers prefer that. I know Stacy and I don't, but that does happen. But the beauty about the competition between these two companies is that it forces us to work harder, because at the end of the day, we want what's best for you guys as drivers. We want what's best for passengers. It's to create the best platform for everyone. So it's a great question, and as a company, we really pride ourselves on our hard work and really listening to drivers and really creating an environment that makes drivers feel comfortable. And the same goes for passengers. So I think a comparison chart may sound like it'd be a great thing, but we'd rather people just try it for themselves and really make the determination. We have drivers who have formerly driven for Uber and say glowingly that what they prefer with Lyft is the passengers are more engaging, and that the company actually treats them like a human being, and that's something we pride ourselves on. So at the end of the day, I don't think there's a comparison chart. Maybe someone made one. If you want to take a stab at it, go for it if you're doing both. But in general, the difference between the two companies is pretty stark in terms of the experience, and we really pride ourselves on that, and we want you guys to feel that as well. And so we'll continue to work hard for that. All right, let's go. Dan Watson has a question. He says, "Are there smaller mustaches? I heard there are supposed to be smaller mustaches." There are. They're called cuddle stashes. I don't think we have one here, but the cuddle stashes yeah, they're pretty awesome. We're ordering more. We're currently on low supply, but yes, there are smaller mustaches. How you get them is a whole other question. I don't even think I have one, but we are ordering more of them. We should have more of them here in HQ in San Francisco. Maybe send an email to support. I really don't know how to get one. Or maybe post
Don't
in
do
the
that.
lines. Yeah.
Go to a driver hangout.
Yeah, go to a driver hangout.
As
There
I
you go.
said earlier, we're working on getting social chairs for all cities, and we will stock up the social chairs with things like cuddle stashes and t-shirts and whatever goodies we have on hand, and they'll bring them to the hangouts for you guys.
Got it. Cool. Let's see. Marcy says, also, I want to wear a pink mustache on my car, but because of the legal issues of Lyft, I'm afraid it will make me a target with the police. Do I have to put it on my car? It's a great question, Marcy, and no, you do not. You're not required to. We would love you to. It's great marketing for getting the word out. It's fun. It really eases passengers when they first see that car that they're getting into. It's easy for them to spot the car. That said, if you're not comfortable wearing it for that reason, I would absolutely highly advise against it until you are comfortable with it. Again, we encourage you to wear it. It's fun. It makes Lyft what it is. But we also understand in some markets, if you feel unsafe for whatever reason, I can tell you right now you shouldn't. But if you feel that way, by all means, if it's going to make you uncomfortable, don't do it, because it's just going to make you feel uncomfortable driving. We don't want that. All right. September asked a great question. This is an easy one. How can I update my photo? Easy. Just email photos, PHOTOS, at lyft.com, LYFT.com. Someone on that end will update your photo for you. And even better is if you email them the photo you want. Generally speaking, we want the photo to be sort of front-facing, full head, that kind of shot. But if you can email a photo, they'll work with you. They'll get it edited for you and get it back in the app for you.
Questions still.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do this one.
Sure. Will Lyft ever have the option to request a specific driver? Also, will they have the option for passengers to pick the size car they need, like Uber? So first question, option to request a specific driver. No, we don't have this feature. We have the request go to the closest driver. This is for everyone's sanity, save you guys gas, time. You don't want to have, a passenger who really enjoyed riding with you request you from all the way across town because they really loved it, and then you have to go all the way over there just to get them. An option for passengers to pick the size car they need. So we have started Lyft Plus here in San Francisco. It's our premium service, and it's SUVs, seat 6. So we do have an option that we have already rolled out in San Francisco, and we're going to be rolling out to other cities soon. I don't know if we have a timeline yet, but soon.
I don't know if we do either.
So yes, we have that option. It's not in all cities yet, but it will be eventually.
Yeah, and one more thing in reference to Uber, the size car with Uber XL, I think you're referring to. So basically SUVs that are Uber X cars. It's something we've talked about, and it's just something we haven't implemented yet. But the ability to request a specific driver is something we haven't implemented and probably won't implement. What I highly recommend to do, if you have a passenger who takes a regular ride, like for instance, some passengers take the same ride every morning, and they take a commute, and if you meet that passenger and you have a good rapport with them and you want to do it, you can sort of set it up for a specific driver by just driving to their house and starting your day there. We have a lot of drivers that kind of find workarounds. You can certainly give out your personal number if you want to, and then they can call you when they need a ride, and you can go out of driver mode, drive to them, and flip it back on. I mean, you can. There are ways to do this without using the system directly, but we look at the flip side of this is that we really didn't want to give passengers the ability to request a specific driver. A lot of the examples we would use, for instance, is that say you have a female driver and a male admirer passenger who really wants the same female driver every time. That's really uncomfortable for the driver. It's something we just didn't want to do. We haven't figured out how to do an opt-in version of that. So at this point, it's not coming. But there are ways around it if you're really comfortable with a passenger and want to have them regularly. Feel free to give out your phone number or a Google Voice number or something for them to contact you with. Good question. So we're almost out of time. We've got about 5 minutes left. We'll try to get to a few people who haven't asked a question yet here. You see? Oh, let's do Keith in Ohio. Keith says, "How is marketing going in Akron, Canton, and in Ohio? Cleveland is growing, but nothing in Akron. I was told that a marketing campaign will be starting in the fall. It's a very good question. I actually don't know the answer specifically. Our marketing team works really hard on acquiring new passengers and drivers, mostly passengers right now, trying to get as many people in cars as possible. Some markets grow faster than others. The good news is that all markets, including Cleveland, are growing the way we want them to, but there are a lot of ebbs and flows in new markets. The first 26 weeks of any market sort of dictates how that market's going to do, and all the markets across the country are doing really well right now in their first, some of the newer markets, Cleveland being one of them. So just give it time. I mean, at the end of the day, the referral cards, get a bunch of drivers together, get some referral cards, and go on the streets on a Saturday and give out those cards. You'll make money doing it, and you'll get more passengers on the road. And once they have the experience, they'll start taking Lyft more often. But we've empowered you to do that, so we highly encourage it. Order those referral cards. Get as many of them out into the wild as possible. Go to bars, go to coffee shops, leave them at the front desk. It's your platform, so feel free to promote it as much as you can, and of course you'll profit from that. Another referral-related question from Carrie says, I have 2 codes, one with my name on and one without. I'm assuming you're referring to referral codes. Which one do I use? Stacy knows the answer to this one.
Use the one that has your name on it, but know that both of those codes are linked to your account. So if you have used the other one, it's okay. It still works. It works in the same way. You'll still get your bonus if somebody has used that code and taken a ride.
Yeah, it's a technical glitch. Some people have 2 codes, some people don't. The bottom line is both codes work exactly the same. It's just like having a second code for no reason. Let's go with, we got a few more here. Let's go. John says, how does one become a mentor? Is it something, it is something I'm very interested in. Well, that's great to hear, John, and here's how you become a mentor. It's very vague, but drive a lot and give a lot of really good 5-star rides. Basically, we pick mentors based on rating and based on how often they drive. So we want, the way the mentoring system works is we dispatch a new driver to a mentor, and so we need mentors to be available. So in order for them to be available, we need people who drive often enough to be on the road. So part of it is how often you drive, but then we don't just let anybody do it. We want people who are actually giving great service and have a great rating. So the bottom line is, if you're giving a lot of 5-star rides and you're giving a lot of rides total, you'll be selected usually within a few months of becoming a Lyft driver. But just keep on it, and the more you drive, the more likely it is you can become a mentor. Especially if you're doing a great job. So yeah, just keep going for it. Good question. September says, did not find in driver portal the ability to order referral cards, just my referral code email. Okay, so it's possible they don't have that link in there yet. This is a very new feature, so I apologize. I've seen the mock-ups. It will eventually have that link, but it must not be there now. The way to find the referral code ordering process is actually to go to the FAQ. So just go to lyft.com/drive/help, and then just search the box for referral cards, and you'll find a link that'll help you find it there. Sorry about that.
It's also probably in that email that you received with your referral code. I'm sure the link to order referral cards is in there as well.
Perfect. Keith says, I'm hearing multiple people speaking and it's hard to hear. I hope that's not the case still. We're continuing to work on this. This is the second one we've done, and we would love to have better sound, like get a microphone and better video. So we'll be working on this. I don't know that if it'll affect you guys. You might not be in the next one, but we're going to continue to work on this. So great feedback. Thank you for that. What else do we have here? Oh, sound is fine right now. Okay, good. Oh, this is a great question from Karen Young. This is one of my favorites. So should we request the passenger to enter the address or just let the passenger direct us when they do not know the address? So navigation is by far the biggest issue with all new Lyft drivers. So a lot of new Lyft drivers don't totally understand what we mean by navigation. So let me just give you a quick overview. The bottom line is that passengers can either enter the destination in advance. So once they've requested a Lyft driver and the Lyft driver is on their way, they can then enter the destination so that when you start the Lyft, it'll just automatically load that address. That's the ideal scenario, and it happens pretty frequently. And even if you know where the address is, basically once it pops up on your phone, just confirm it with the passenger. Just say, hey, are you heading to this address? This is what you entered. And then once they say yes, just open the navigation app of choice. Highly recommend Google Maps or Waze. I do not recommend Apple Maps. It's not very reliable in most cities. And we actually have data to support that, believe it or not. So pick Google Maps or Waze, and it'll automatically load up in your navigation. And then if you know the way, you can still kind of go the way you want to go. Sometimes you can have a quick conversation about it as you're driving. But in general, just try to stick to the navigation as much as possible. Don't ask the passenger to give you directions in general, because it's kind of a pain for the passenger. Typically, they'd rather talk to you or get some emails responded to while they're in the car, as opposed to spending the whole time giving you directions. So I would just err on the side of not doing that, because as soon as you ask them, they're going to feel obligated to give you directions. It's going to make them feel like you don't know where you're going. So I would just, in general, focus on that. But once you get the passenger in the car and you've confirmed their address, I would always enter it in the navigation. I would just get in the habit of doing that. It makes it super easy. And yeah, occasionally navigation doesn't give you the best route, but they'll speak up if it's not the way they want to go. Good question. Well, folks, I think we are out of time. We have a few more questions we didn't get to today. I'll try to figure out if we can answer these after the fact, but really appreciate everybody's time today. We're hopefully going to be doing these every week from now on. So if you want to come to the next one, by all means, come and join us. But again, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
And we will talk later.
Bye.
Get on the road. We'll see you out there.